And welcome back. We are about to get into our first segment, first out of duty for this lovely Thursday morning. In with us is Lily Bowman, Executive Director of the Belize Red Cross, and Phillip Willoughby, CEMO representative, and of course from the Belize City Council. Guys, good morning. It's so nice to see you.
Good morning. It's nice to be here.
And welcome. Like we mentioned, first out of duty, over the past few Belize City have seen a lot of tragedy. It actually overwhelms folks when talking to people with the amount of things that could eventually catch this city in terms of tragedy and whatnot. There was a situation there through Majestic Alley, whereby a lot of family lost their home, lost their belongings. CEMO and the Belize Red Cross have always got to be on P's and Q's and always have to be ready in situations like this. Talk to us about what the Belize Red Cross is doing, Miss Lily, and of course, Phillip Willoughby. Guys, talk to us about the situation as we speak.
Okay, and this gives me a great opportunity for people to let people understand our role. Mm-hmm. The Red Cross is auxiliary to the government in all humanitarian fields. So we don't take the lead if it's not necessary. We don't branch off if it's not necessary. So in this case, it's a very localized disaster that occurred. CEMO took the lead, which is the way it should happen. And we are there supporting them in everything and in any which way we can. So what we have been doing is collaborating from Saturday. Right, we met right away Saturday morning, and we have been collaborating with them as to how to assist them best. So all day Saturday we were gathering our relief items that they can immediately use, such as hygiene kits. You know, the normal hygiene kits, blankets that they can use like sheets. We gave them buckets, we gave them jerry cans for them to store their water, drinking water. We also provided a Rotoplas tank for them to fill with water for them. But we have been all the way working under the leadership of CEMO in this case because they are the lead agency now.
And that's a great segue for you, Councillor Willoughby, to tell us a bit about the efforts of CEMO. Obviously, the incident took place right up the street from City Council, and you probably know and have interacted with many of these people throughout the course of your days.
Yes, ma'am. Well, basically, what we've done thus far is just basically to coordinate all supporting agencies, namely Red Cross. We have Ministry of Human Services. We have NEMA on board with us from Bowman. We have several other donor agencies who have participated to assist in the relief efforts. We have, namely, BTL has come on board. We have Radisson, who has shown interest. We have a group of friends from Placencia. We have Sancas group of companies. We have San Pedro Express. We have a couple of other entities and organizations who have expressed their position to support in the relief exercise. The Belize City Council within itself has done a lot of work since Saturday. Basically, we've, cleaned up and sanitized the entire area along with Ministry of Health. We've done a walk through Saturday with the police department, namely Mr. Guinness, the commander north side. We had the city planner and the city engineer along with us, the fire chief and his deputy, Mr. Matura, to assess the building, to assess the structure. What the engineer and the city planner is saying is that the building has been compromised and undermined. So right off, we have advised the police and all involved that we wouldn't want anybody to inhabit these buildings because it's not suitable for living, and we wouldn't want any other incidents. To the same time, God, there hasn't been any fatalities, right? So we are grateful for that, and we wouldn't want none thereafter. So we have to mitigate and manage properly, or we communicate and advise the families. There are 14 families whose lives have been disrupted thus far, The road to recovery is always a difficult and arduous task for the responders as well as the families, but we are doing the best with what we have, resources being limited and scarce. The Red Cross made their contribution. The city is grateful for that. I'm certain the residents are grateful for that. Ministry of Human Services has, and the city, Belize City Council has been feeding the victims warm meals since the incident occurred. We made a transition yesterday whereby the residents received the gas tank, the stove top, patches and so forth from the Belize Red Cross, nets for the flies.
Yeah.
They also got a donation from San Pedro Express. We received $5,000, of which they will be given, and the city will be contributing along with that, so that the city administrator just briefed me last night that she would up the amount to at least $500 per family. So they should be receiving those checks, I believe, today if possible, but latest tomorrow with the adjustments that needs to be made. So they are grateful for that. Red Cross also chipped in with the VAT so that they can have water supply.
Yes.
The fire department provided the water by filling the tanks. We provided also portable toilets for them to use. So as we transition back to somewhat a semblance of normalcy, we hope that they are pretty much comfortable with where we were since, post the fire to this point now. They were also given mattresses and so forth.
And I think Lily mentioned it earlier, and it's very important to underscore here that oftentimes we think emergency or disaster as simply hurricanes, and this is a very good example as to how quickly somebody's life can change, and they can be robbed of everything that they have. The main concern, I imagine, starting Friday night was to have some place to house them. And you did open the emergency shelter. Is there a particular plan in place as to how long you provide shelter for the displaced families?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
In this case, it's unique.
Yeah.
Let me choose my words carefully,
Yeah.
please. We touched base with Reverend Flowers over at St. Mary's. He's a parishioner over there. So we used the hall in the first instance. But that was a quick transition because, school is Monday.
Yeah.
And that tantamount over, I don't want to say which one is higher in priority, what the victims are.
Yeah.
And so is the kids'
Yeah.
education. So we had to make immediate secondary accommodation available for the victims due to the landscape of our society and security concerns. We had to choose strategically where and how to place these families whose lives were disrupted by the fire. So we did so. We were successful in doing that, working out with Henry Charles. We've been able to secure accommodation for them. They are quite, to this end, safe and secure. They do have police security also. And we are meeting their needs on a daily basis. Like I said, they got the cooktops, the gas tank, 1 month groceries, supply from Human Services, and other donation will be coming along for them, and they have the cash on hand available to take care of stuff that Red Cross advised us, and we learned something new, that it gives them somewhat the attitude for them to get back their dignity, that they can spend their own money and do their own thing rather than agencies coming and say, this is the way you need, this is the way you need. This, we try to give them that autonomy to choose and decide. Hopefully they do the right thing.
You let them identify their own priorities.
The importance here, like you mentioned, they've got their food supplies, and now they will be given some funds so they could make their decisions in terms of what's next for them and the importance. Children were involved and this will eventually have a long-lasting mental for them. It definitely will affect them. What about counseling sessions? Are these kids, these families being given these sessions so as to get their lives back to normalcy, their mentality?
Well, the Ministry of Human Services, through the offices of Ms. Anna Williams, I'm certainly there on top of that. Firstly, by taking the inventory, we've classified the families, male, female, and that breakdown has been done to this end. So we know exactly how many kids going to school, elderly, the sick, the vulnerable within the circumstances that exist. Also, we've had, again, one of the other donor partners now is looking at school books, school uniform, and the like. So that is covered. What Human Services will now do is to find out just that, to do that psychosocial analysis to see the impact and effects that the fire would have on the families, and not limited to only the adults, but including the kids also.
Now, we had the images up earlier, and I wanted to bring that up. This is also a very interesting scenario where we see CEMO working along with the area representative. We had images of yourself and Honorable Said Musa moving around the area. He's, of course, a long-standing area representative in that area, and you're from opposite parties. Let's talk about the importance of having this type of relationship with the area representative who has such a close relationship with the residents.
I think what is tantamount here is that there's a disaster. And as the Constitution has it, regardless of race, creed, culture, religion, sickness, your sexual, whatever it is, at the end of the day, you set all of that aside and you look at the needs of the affected persons involved. And that set precedence over everything else. So there may be some that may say, play that political card. In this stage, I don't want to say the game, but we can't see that in disasters and being responsive, you don't see that. So that is a non-issue, it's a non-factor. And if any of my colleagues or the people around us see it that way, it's best you just keep out or keep away, rather than you bring an uneasy climate or atmosphere dealing with people who have needs and concerns at this time. And it could have been either one of us, family members, anybody could have been a victim, anybody. So set that aside.
Yeah, and on behalf of the Red Cross, that is one of the things that made it so easy for us to just, join forces in a seamless manner. Because as you know, we are guided by our fundamental principles, one of which is impartiality. And we saw that. We saw that the humanitarian imperative comes first. And that is how we work. So it made us fit so well with their plan. And it's going well so far.
Yes.
Now, they're very interesting elements, I think, to this particular disaster. One you pointed out, Phillip, which is the security aspect. And secondly is that it was a barracks. It was small apartments. So these persons had very little. They lost everything, and there's no, it's invaluable to them. But to rebuild, one would guess, will be a lot harder for them. And perhaps you can speak of your own personal experiences in interacting with the victims or the persons who've been displaced as to what the possibilities are for them in moving forward. In other words, when they can no longer provide shelter, do they have families they can turn to? Do they have enough startup cash to be able to rent somewhere new or find a place for them and their families to relocate?
Well, while we don't really know all the details of their capacity at this point, because they tell you just so much. We have been talking with them, with different persons affected, and they have hope, and that's the biggest thing. They have hope and they look forward. They know that they have lost everything. They know that they were displaced, and it was a tragedy, and they speak of it as the present still. However, I see hope in these people, and they know that going forward, they will reconstruct. They will recover from this. However, it will be a long process
Yeah.
because we all know that you have areas that people are more vulnerable
Yeah.
than others, and that area they are our neighbors. We see them every day. We talk to them every day.
Yeah.
You know, like we are family, and we realize that it will be a rough road.
Yeah.
So, like infrastructure-wise, the Red Cross
Yeah.
doesn't get involved, and we leave that to the local authorities. But many of them, well, not many, but several of them move to families, so they have integrated into families. But like we talked about yesterday, we still have to assist these families,
Yeah.
because they have now added on expenses to their to their family, and those are unexpected expenses that we need to help.
That not everybody
alleviate.
can bear, yeah.
Right, right.
Well, the discussion of rebuilding and reconstructing, that's really in the purview of central government. And I believe that the onus now lies with the representative to communicate with the government, to have that discussion and that level of talks to discuss the way forward for the persons affected by the fire. We don't want to say they're
Yes.
We're not
victims.
gonna
We're
have
trying to,
victims.
so that is where that conversation lies. Again, it's really difficult because the elders in the family, they can be relocated, but the major concern is the young people from that area wherein the difficulty lies. I know they have concerns, and we are trying to rectify the concerns they have, some families, but even in relocating to certain location, under the circumstances, that couldn't happen. So maybe some of the concerns that they are facing right now would have been allayed, but again, due to the circumstances of societal landscape, that is somewhat
It
a
continues to be
contingency
a
that
challenge.
we have to deal with. So even in reconstructing and relocating these persons, there's that issue of security factor that still exists for them. So again, I hope that the discussion that are held at that level can take into consideration the entire scope and magnitude of all those affected, even in this regard.
This situation, like you mentioned, could happen to any family at any time. So in terms of relief efforts, it has to be a collective, something that we all want to do, something that we have to do, must do to eventually help families. Where can we take help for these families? In terms of finances, in terms of food, in terms of clothing.
Let's start off with what are the needs currently?
Well, firstly, I would want to say that all agencies, organizations, person, individual, entities who want to assist in the relief efforts, to do that through the Belize City Council.
Okay.
Let us coordinate that so that there's no duplication of reliefs being issued. Secondly, you know directly who the affected persons are. They can also do that through the Red Cross, and the Red Cross and the CEMO will still exchange that information for information sharing purposes. And whenever there's any donor agency that wants to come in, we call in the Belize Red Cross and we call in Human Services to guide the discussion in terms of what the needs and priorities are for the affected families. We have set tiers or different levels that needs to be attained in terms of the relief that the affected families need, and we have done such thus far. So the families have received mattresses and beddings, nets. They have got the cooktop, the stove top. They have gotten the butane gas tank. They have gotten the pots. Now we are looking to see how we give them tables and chairs.
Okay.
Just the
Basic
basic
furniture.
to get them back to normalcy.
And crockery, cutlery.
Cutlery and that type of thing and the likes. They have, I think, I wouldn't say they would have always enough clothes, but relatively that's one of the donations that came in first and the most.
And that's normally what what people keep giving. And it is necessary. They need clothes still.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so what are we saying if somebody's watching right now and has been wanting to help in some way or the other? What's your advice to them as to what they can offer? Is it best to give financial support at this point if they can afford it?
It's always best to give financial support because then you can channel it into their main priority areas.
Yeah.
And as we spoke about a little earlier, giving them that a little bit of money in their hands as well helps them to regain a little bit of dignity by going and purchasing what they need to make their life a little better. But we also can, for instance, we're giving them food for a month. Food is something you need every day, 3 times a day. And having children maybe 4, 5, 6 times a day.
Yes.
So you never ever could say we have enough food.
Yeah.
Okay.
So definitely, food is one avenue that we need to assist them with.
Okay.
But we must mention here though, Mr. Willoughby, that there are certain a number of them who are working. So it is really just that startup for them to start to
back.
feel some sort of a level of normalcy, but they will be supporting themselves eventually.
Okay.
They will be getting back on their feet, at a much quicker pace, I think, because some of them are working.
Yeah.
Councillor Willoughby, and this is a positive guilty. You are guilty of always being around the city, looking after families and making sure that projects are being dealt with properly on behalf of the Belize City Council and your portfolio. I'm sure you've been in areas whereby we see buildings so close to one another. The proximity is extremely close. What is the Belize City Council doing in terms of educating these people when it comes to disasters? Example, this one that took place a while ago. So as family take heed of disasters like this one, and it shouldn't happen in their area. What is the Belize City Council doing with these people? And I say guilty for the fact that you're always around with families.
Well, Ms. Marlene, we cut into June 1st, the start of the hurricane season, so you have to invite us back and you hear the same thing.
That's fine.
Okay.
If we keep on saying it, eventually it will stick.
Yeah.
Okay. There's several projects that's ongoing and continuous, but with more emphasis in 2 areas. I hope we have enough time that at least I can scratch the surface.
Yeah.
In terms of the buildings, derelict buildings, we could start with those, overgrown properties and derelict vehicles. I put together a committee consisting of the Ministry of Health, Human Services, the Police Department, Fire Services, the city engineer, city planner, and the sanitation team to look at just that. We need to deal with that as quickly as possible. I recall during Hurricane Earl, Colonel Defoe, who is the National Emergency Coordinator, said point blank to me, Willoughby, we need to take care of that situation, the same situation that you just explained. And since then, we've put in the mechanisms and brought all the tools together so that we can address that. But to do so, we have to look at legislation. One, there is existing legislation, but we want to follow the process so that when the judge adjudicates, we do have a winning case. So in that effort, it puts us in a better position to mitigate better. So there is where we lie with that. Now, I can imagine that there might be some resistance on behalf of the residents, but now this is where the proactive approach comes in to educate and sensitize them about the vulnerable state that exists right now because of these pre-existing conditions. So that is being dealt with right now as we speak. Secondly, we have this issue of our canals being built up with silt, which facilitate the drainage of the city. But compounding that, not that this is an attributing factor, but the amount and the type of waste that are being thrown in our drains and canals. Now, everybody expects the city to do its part. We are doing our fair share, but we expect the citizenry to do the same. And in doing the same, we can collaborate together to ensure that our drains are clean and the canals are clean. So that is the second project that is being undertaken, but I'm waiting for the assessments to come in from DOE, Hydrology, and Ministry of Works, so we can plan forward to approach cleaning up the canal before the commencement of the rainy season.
And you know what you're speaking about is taking what is a very sad situation and using it as a lesson as well. And one thing I don't want to miss in this conversation, and I know Lily, you guys do some work with this, is fire drills and learning how to evacuate in a proper manner.
Simulation.
Simulation. I'm so grateful. I mean, I think we have seen so many tragedies when it comes to fires, and this was such a small area that there could have been a tragedy in that area, but thankfully no life was lost. And this is an opportunity for, I think, people who work in emergency management to reiterate how important it is to be aware of the different potential disasters that can take place.
It's not very easy to transition into your programs into the urban setting.
Yeah.
Because we go into the rural setting and it's just one situation, you know, normally it's easier to administer and to implement. In the urban setting, there are so many other factors that affect one another.
Yeah.
And yes, but like you mentioned, we will use this as an example, yes, but in a positive way.
Yeah.
It opens the doors for us to implement our programs that we have been implementing probably more in the rural areas than in the city. For instance, we have a very good program called the FAST. It's Participatory Hygiene and Sanitation Transformation.
Okay.
It basically teaches you about good and bad hygiene, about how to handle your garbage, how to wash your hands, you know, and different other, it's a, like, I don't remember, and my staff might beat me for this, but I think it's about 8 modules that we go through, maybe more.
Yeah.
But it is something that as we talk right now, I'm thinking that maybe I could talk to Phillip about and see how we can implement it in this urban setting. Because especially when you live in very confined areas and very, very close, and we all know how lax we are with our garbage, even if we blame it on the dogs. We are to blame as well. So, you know, it's a good program probably to bring in. But we also have the disaster preparedness.
Yes.
And all that, all those things that they need to put in place before the disaster season starts, or not the disaster season, because disaster could come about anytime, but like we call it the hurricane season. You know, it is the opening. We can come in and we can start taking these programs around.
So with every situation where you jump into action and activate your relief plans, there are lessons learned because each disaster is different. What's the lesson that seems to stand out in this particular scenario?
For
either one.
Feel free.
Okay.
Let's start with you.
Well, this is nothing new for us.
Yeah.
We have responded to fires across the city. Maybe not at this magnitude, but I believe that coordinating with all the agencies, our response time was exceptionally well met within target. I think we responded well. The media did a great job in terms of covering it. We would have to look back at it as a committee to see if any overlapping took place, any shortfalls were noticed, and then we go from there. But by and large, I think I don't want to say we become perfectionists at this, but we are getting better with every event in executing our duties. I believe we're on target. The Belize City Council staff, coordinated by Mr. Winosha, did an exceptional job. Mr. Mario with cleaning up, the sanitation, the city engineer and the city planner were on ball. My colleagues were updated every step of the way. So once we are communicating, I don't think we miss anything. And if I do miss anything, one of my colleagues would, Phillip, you made a step, you made an error here. Make we correct it quickly. So that is stopped right there and rectified. So it's very difficult to say. I would venture to say this though, to the general public. They can be the tool or the mechanism that criticize us, and then we learn from that, and then we do better in terms of what we are providing in the relief exercise and our service.
And for us, the big lesson learned was you have to know the context of the neighborhood, of the community, of the people. I didn't even think about the security the way Phillip described it. We really didn't think about it that way. Our first thing is to assist them with their immediate needs. And like they need shelter. Where will we take them? But that made me step back and I said, and living in that neighborhood there myself, because I don't live very far away from there too. It's something that I don't really seem to have to think about a lot. So that was one lesson learned from me. You really need to know the context, and or to realize, because we know it, but we need to realize it. Another thing is that you have to leave a space for the unexpected, and that you always learn from your collaboration, because through this, there are already some tools that we use during our assessments that we will be sharing with the City Council, with CEMO. And it just shows you that you yourself should not be handling a situation like that. The Belize Red Cross doesn't always go out during a fire or to assist in a fire. More than not, the people affected by the fire come to us. After they go to human development, they send them to us. We assist them the way we can. But when it's something like this, like a little more of a mass casualty, then we come out. We come out and we definitely start, a bigger scale response.
And one of the beautiful things we see about our society is that when there is a disaster, people are always willing to help and are always interested in finding out how they're recovering. So we're so grateful that you stopped in to tell us about how these families are doing. And once again, let's just talk about how people can assist these families to get back on their feet and who they contact to offer this type of assistance.
Well, I would venture to say they can contact the Belize City Council office. They will then be directed to myself. They can contact the Red Cross, and they will touch base with the proper person over there, and they will take it through the proper channels. They can contact the Ministry of Human Services, and they will do the same. And at the end of the day, we will always communicate between these three agencies and CEMO, so that we can keep each other posted, and where we need to meet, we meet and discuss, and then we move forward. So there's nothing happening outside the loop that one agency may not know of or may not be aware of, and this is where the coordination and communication comes in. That it will be at the table and we will deal with it within a proper structure.
And timeline. And it's basically to eliminate things like duplications.
You don't want to give 5 mattresses to one family.
Exactly. Well, unless they need it.
Well, if they're a big family, that's
unless
a wrong
they need
example.
it, because there were some families with like 8 members. So you have to know all that, and your assessments will tell you that. But also, human nature is this, that they take advantage of these things, and we find people coming in to claim, I was affected, and you weren't. So doing it the way we are eliminating those. We're as best as possible, or maybe mitigating it more is the better word.
Making sure the people who need it are the people who are receiving the assistance.
And just before we go, one of the things that we noticed, because given the time and the day that situation occurred, I'm sure you'd like to shed light on your traffic department on the job they've done in terms of coordinating traffic in that area.
Yes. B. Cupids, he's a great guy, excellent worker. We know that the fire happened during almost peak rush hour, this particular one, and maybe several others. So even though the trucks have the siren, if you have traffic backed up, that's a scenario. But again, the way the communication happens within the radio network with the police, the fire, and the traffic department, we were able to facilitate at least trying to get the fire trucks, the vehicles to the scene as quickly as possible. Along with that, not to skip out of the context of that discussion, again, where we come to mitigation and so forth, I thought about it before coming, and I wouldn't want to leave without saying, again, the way the land use issue pops up, not only in Belize City, but across the country within its landscape. The Commissioner of Lands, Mr. Vayos, you have the policy unit and the CEO, they themselves are doing a spectacular job in looking at land use and how we mitigate. So when we come back prior to the hurricane season, play it full this year.
Who knows? It might be an early hurricane season. There was a storm that was formed near Bahama, so we might have to move that up. But going back to the issue, I do want to say thank you for stopping in. It was very important for us to get an idea of, or get the clear picture as to how the relief efforts are going. The families in the Majestic Alley, we saw the stories on Friday and Monday, who were devastated at their loss. And it's good to know that the coordinated efforts of the agencies have allowed for them to at least have a shelter and their basic needs provided for. And hopefully people who are listening will be willing to offer additional support so they can get back on their feet.
Yes, ma'am.
All right? Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I said thank you to all the individual entities, businesses who have donated. Thanks to Henry Charles and HRC for the building. Thanks for the good behavior of the affected persons. Because we have to say kudos where it's due.
Yeah,
they have been well behaved, well mannerly. Granted the situation, because you know tensions are high when you are affected and you have needs. So I just want to congratulate all involved at this time.
All right, and thank you for being here. We're going to go ahead now and take a break, and when we come back, we'll be speaking to representatives of Special Olympics Belize about their upcoming fun run. So stay tuned.